your girl, Erica Wilson, the host of the Had to Happen show. You knew that you had to turn to God because He's the only one that could get you out.
Such a blessing to be able to sit with you, son.
You know, like in the isolation, sometimes we feel lonely or not being able to fit in, or this person is not going to bother with me or whatever. But that is the time when God says, "Be still."
Right.
And know that I am God. There you go. Thank you, Jesus.
I'm a single mom with 2 kids, struggling, rape victim, homeless, robbed at gunpoint. All those things had to happen to me to birth me for my purpose today. And that's why I'm standing here today giving back.
Let's welcome our host, Erica Wilson.
Great day, everyone. We're here live today with the girl, Erica Wilson, at It Had to Happen. Guys, for season 4, episode, I want to say 23 already. Man, is God doing a great thing in this broadcast. But today's topic is something that we all need to hear and learn about. Because as I began to go on our guest page and just do some research on her, I didn't even know there was a difference between mental illness and mental health. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you all about our guest for today, which is Natasha Pierre. She is an award-winning speaker, author, certified professional, career and intuitive life coach, guys, and mental health advocate with over 20 years of lived mental health experience. Her relatable speaking style allows her to connect with global audiences to share the importance of self-awareness, self-advocacy, community building, and effective legislation. Natasha was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2, panic disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. She devotes much of her time to mental health education and advocacy. She frequently shares her lived experiences in the community, in law enforcement crisis, intervention, training sessions, and as a subject matter expert for local news networks. Let me tell you guys, when you follow her on TikTok, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about and the great content that she delivers. My God, I told you. Natasha has a BA in Mass Communications from Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Social Security Administration. She is the author of Provoking Thoughts, Volume 1, 101. Inspirational quotes for daily life, and is currently working on her second book, guys, of grief. Natasha was born and raised in St. Thomas, where I want to visit, U.S. Virgin Islands. All right, guys, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce to some and present to others the Natasha Pierre. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to come here and talk about this topic on today, being though that it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So if you can, I read a little bit about you, but the guests would like to hear from you. I mean, the audience would like to hear from you about who is Natasha Pierre?
Great question. Who is Natasha Pierre? Well, for the purposes of today's conversation, I am a mental health educator, a mental health advocate, forced into those roles by my own personal mental health journey. You know, being living with any mental health diagnosis or any condition, you've got to be your own advocate. And so by me pushing for the supports that I need, I work with other people to get them the supports that they need. And here I am today. I'm unapologetic about my story because I am a firm believer that a diagnosis is not a death sentence. And that's the message that I want to get to everyone today.
You know, Natasha, with everything that's going on right now, as we were speaking in the green room, and I was just sharing with you, soon as I walked in from the store today, I come in on TV, there's this mass shooting again, yet again, in Texas with, I think they said 14 people passed away. I don't know how many kids and how many adults. But being though we're dealing with this in this time, and this being, I mean, look at how God works. You had to be on here today. It had to happen, you know. And again, what would you say to that? And guys, we're not telling anyone what they should do. Natasha is sharing her experience with you all.
You know, without knowing details of what happened, America has got to deal with its obsession with guns. That's the first thing, because what we're doing is we're creating and raising a generation that's going to need therapy as they get older. You know, when I was growing up, I didn't live through COVID. I didn't live through a pandemic. I didn't have to deal with school shootings. But this is what our children are now dealing with. And the fact that we continue to turn a blind eye to a problem that is very obvious really says a lot about where our priorities are in this country.
Yeah, I mean, my God. And when I was coming up, we didn't deal with that either. You know, we didn't have to worry about coming out when we make it back home from school. Not just as a student, but as an educator. You know, I mean, it is so many things that's going on today's society, and it's so easy. You know, I mean, I don't want to touch that topic because I know that can like literally blow through the roof when we go to speaking about guns, Natasha, but it's bigger than guns.
Absolutely.
Okay? These are lives that you can never get back. Once they're gone, you can never get this back. And
Absolutely.
This people need to focus on. So I want to go back to something that I saw on your page, Natasha, because I said I didn't even know the difference. And you said it's ignorance. And I can say I stand in ignorance because I didn't know that there was a difference between mental health and mental illness. So if you can tell the people who may be in my shoes that did not know exactly.
Absolutely. You know, when it comes to mental illness, we're talking about something that's been diagnosed by a physician or a mental health counselor. That's a diagnosis. So we know in America, 1 in 5 Americans, 1 in 5 adults live with a diagnosed mental illness. However, when it comes to mental health, as long as you have a mind, you need to care about your mental health. 5 out of 5 people have a mind. And so if you have a mind, you need to be caring about your emotional and psychological well-being. So when we talk about shootings, when we talk about a pandemic, Those aren't mental illnesses. We're talking about trauma. We're talking about a human response to an event or an experience that is distressing. We now have a community of people and communities of people who are experiencing trauma, who are experiencing grief. That's not a mental illness. However, if left untreated, if ignored, if stuffed under the rug, those things can become conditions like anxiety and depression and more.
Wow. And the thing is, like you said, if it's not um, diagnosed,
Hmm.
one just go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, is especially in the Black communities, mental health is something that we do not discuss,
Mhm.
especially talking to a therapist, you know, um, until a time like this. Not only do you need to speak to a mental therapist, but you need to speak to a spiritual therapist as well, because there's so many things that tie into everything that we're dealing with now. And I hate to say it, but it is the truth, Natasha. The Bible is fulfilled. It speaks about times that we're in now. And I used to beg to differ because I'd be like, okay, well, how long? But, I've been hearing this since I was a little child. How about you?
You know, I've got a, I just did a TikTok about the importance of faith leaders staying in their lane when it comes to mental health and allowing for mental health counselors to be in their ministries and in their congregations to do the work that is necessary. I think, for many people, talking about mental health isn't like talking about physical health. Okay, when
Right.
someone says that they're sick, that they're dealing with cancer, whatever, that's when the edible arrangements come in. That's when people come over to walk the dog, clean the house. I got a casserole or, food for you. That's what happens when you're physically ill. When you have a mental illness, when you are experiencing a mental health challenge, people disappear. People leave you alone. People are quiet. And so, faith communities that for generations have been a safe place, a place of solace when families and individuals are in distress, unfortunately, when it comes to mental health, they have not traditionally been safe spaces. I know my experience that I've been hurt more in churches and in faith communities than I've been hurt elsewhere. My mental health has been more damaged in faith communities than it's been elsewhere. I think COVID revealed that we have long gone past the just fast and pray, just build up your faith, read a couple scriptures. We are past that. Now we need people who are trained and skilled in helping people walk through their challenges, because it's not just a read your Bible or read the scriptures anymore. People need strategy because the world that we live in has changed. I do believe wholeheartedly that a part of a recovery plan can be faith-based. I think there's multiple paths to recovery. Some only do therapy, some only do medication, some play with puppies, some write a book. Whatever is going to enable an individual to lead a healthy and fulfilling life, that's what I want them to do. And a part of that is faith. However, that faith space must be safe. And in my experience, many times they're not.
Well, one thing I can say, and it's going to get really good right here, because this is something that I love to talk about. I love to talk about my God,
Mhm.
because mental therapists, that's all of us, we come from God. We're one, right? In God, you know. However, yes, therapists do have their positions. Mental health therapists, spiritual, what they call them, spiritual therapists. They may have a degree, or they
Mhm.
may not. However, when one is dealing with demonic spirits, so that's where I'm gonna take you at with this. Not just the anxiety and things like that which come on. But when one dealing with a demonic spirit, do you honestly think that mental health therapists can help them through um, dealing with that?
I am so happy that you brought this up because I think one of the biggest challenges between the spiritual world and the mental health community is that they're not speaking the same language. And fortunately, I speak both languages, so I serve as an interpreter. Here's what I say. Years ago, I recall, when living in New York, I was going to church. The challenges and the symptoms that I was experiencing at that time, I couldn't hear the pastor. I couldn't hear. There was nothing that I could not hear. I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. That's a mental health issue. What medicine does is that it alleviates some of the symptoms so that you are able to create the strategy, to get the support, to process whatever you're going through. I know that there are many different people of different faiths that's going to be watching this. And here's the reality. I don't discount what anyone believes. Whatever you believe is what you believe. But I think we can all agree that if someone has 2 broken legs and they need to drive a car, in order for them to drive a car, we need to address the broken legs. And so it's the same thing with faith, regardless of what you believe. In order for a person to be able to receive the treatment, to receive the instruction, to receive whatever recovery pathway is being offered, you've got to alleviate some of the symptoms. And the challenge that I have sometimes with faith communities is that you've got to hear. When I look at the complaints, I wouldn't even say complaints, the cries of people who are experiencing mental health challenges, it's not that they're rejecting any one pathway. They first want to be heard. Hear me, hear that I'm in pain, hear that I'm hurting, and meet me where I am, because I'm unable to receive whatever help and solutions that you're giving to me if you won't hear my pain. And, I say that as a person who has been and has experienced that level of pain. I can't hear the scripture if I've got 10,000 thoughts going on in my head. I can't hear that you want to support me if I'm so anxious I feel like I'm jumping out of my skin. I can't hear that you want to be present for me if you are centering your discomfort with my life instead of focusing on, Natasha, what do you need right now in this moment? So it's like a crying baby. Okay, we see that it's crying. I want you to stop crying because it's annoying me. Well, did you check to see if I'm wet? Did you check to see if I'm hungry? Did you check to see if maybe there's a toy stuck under my back? Alleviate this pain first, and now we can talk about how my behavior might be disrupting your life.
That's good right there, Natasha. And I love that you broke it down the way that you did. And a lot of times, too, I'm going to take it back to what you said. You had a lot of church hurt, right? And man, I can relate to you on that. But here's the thing. What happens is we have to understand, and as hard as it was for me to grasp this, we have to understand that they're human too. They're still dealing with flesh. So you're not looking at who the person is. You're looking at who the person is being used by. And trust me, I know what you mean when you say church hurt. Definitely when you're in a place, if you're crying out for help, right? And just say, for instance, you confide in someone in the church, but you have to also know the church is definitely in your heart, but you're in the building, you're in the kingdom. Okay, so you're confiding in someone, and to hear it being preached, to think that you confided in someone, that's devastating. It's devastating. But I had to realize that, okay, how I was able to get through it, Natasha, I had to think, I'm going to look at the person. I'm not going to look at the person, but I'm going to look at who the person is being used by. You had anointing on your life as a little girl. That's why you had to go through everything that you went through. All that church happened. All that church hurt. It had to happen, Natasha. That's why you're sitting here with so much wisdom to be able to serve the people. And we want to go through. We spoke about beta versus bait, right? And I'm telling you, you should go over and watch that my bishop and Satira walked it on yesterday. Beta versus bait. God uses the bait to get us to the beta. And all those times, we just want in today's society, we want a microwave fix, right? We want everything to just be, I don't want to go through anything. Who wants to go through trials, right? Who wants to deal with that? But you were being birthed for your purpose. So all of that church hurt, it built you for your purpose. And that's why you're sitting there and you're carrying so many degrees and so many things. You're the best person for the job. Natasha.
And you know what?
Congratulations.
I don't know. I'm still walking that out because there was a recent one. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
I sometimes I get frustrated with myself because I feel like I sit in two worlds. Spiritually, I can see people and their behaviors, and I understand why they act and behave the way that they do and why they respond to me the way that they do. But you know what? I'm still human. I'm
Yeah.
still woman. And my challenge with faith communities is, especially when it comes, especially in today's world.
Mhm.
You know, years ago, we didn't hear so much about, suicide. We didn't hear so much about the levels and depths of depression that people experience. And I think that every faith leader, I don't care, rabbi, imam, pastor, bishop, you have a duty as a leader to ensure that you and the leaders that you have around you are safe. I know that you're human, but when you are in a leadership position, heavy is the head that wears a crown, you have a responsibility to ensure that you are not hurting the people that are coming to you for healing. And many times we get so busy with the day to day. Just today, an hour ago, before getting on this broadcast, I posted on my Facebook page my frustration even with the behavioral health system. That if you're working in a behavioral health system, recognize that when you see people, you're seeing them at their worst. So yes, you've got to come to work equipped to empower, to encourage, to educate. Because people aren't entering a hospital and a doctor's office because they feel well. They're coming to you because they're in distress. And if you are not equipped on that day to serve, to minister, to heal, to encourage, then you might need to take a PTO day, because the people that are coming to you are so hurt, so broken, so wounded that you don't know if your bad behavior is going to be the thing that pushes them over the edge. Everyone is fighting a battle that you can't see. And we just have, we talk a lot about community. Community is ensuring that the same safety and love and compassion and kindness that I want, I'm giving it to others. So on days if I'm not feeling my best, I'm not talking to anyone. I'm rescheduling clients because I can't pour from a tainted vessel. I can't pour from a dirty cup, because then I'm pouring into someone what they don't need to have from me.
I get that, and I understand that,
Mhm.
right? You and with the let's remove the bishops and let's take the church out of it, right? Because let me tell you something. It's so we expect too much from people.
Facts.
Expect too much of us from people, and when it do not happen, we saw
Mm.
losing our mind, basically, almost, because we can't that they're just not going to be who you want them to be. They're who they are. And sometimes people are giving you the best version, I mean, the best them. That's all that they know how to give. But let's go back to the pastors. When you're receiving so much, you got to know spirits is real.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you're receiving so much, That's why you have to have a team around you, because not one person is alone. But I'm going to take you back to the Bible, because in the Bible, look who God used. He didn't use a perfect person. He used the broken people. So maybe that broken person that's going to that pastor, that bishop, that elder, that deacon, whomever, maybe that broken person is going to shed some light in their life. You see what I'm saying? To see what they're missing, because we're all, like you said, fighting a battle that nobody knows anything about. But you want in a safe place. When you go to speak to someone, you want to have be in that safe place, and you don't expect to hear it. Like I tell people, when I pray, Natasha, sometimes I don't pray out loud, because the enemy don't know what to attack if I'm not praying, because he's listening too. You got to know that. But trust me, I love what you're doing. I love the info that you're giving, and I love the level of communication you and I is having here. that one is understanding each other, because whatever you that works for you, we have to understand that works for Natasha. God is not going to pour your oil, and that's what my bishop said yesterday, on somebody else. But Natasha, like I said, was being birthed. So let's go into this. Tell me, what are some of the mistakes people make when discussing mental health?
Ooh, they pull from Hollywood.
Ooh.
They pull from Hollywood. Listen, whatever you see on TV, that is not the case. Okay. Based on all of the diagnoses that you read, I should not be here. When people hear mental health and mental illness, they're expecting the person that's drooling in the corner, talking to themselves, the ones that's dirty, that'll never amount to anything. They're not expecting me to show up. And that's why it's so important to me that I keep showing up, that I keep sharing, that I keep talking, because a person experiencing a mental health challenge can look like me or can look like you. So that's the first thing. Get rid of all your stereotypes, because with 1 in 5 people living with a diagnosed mental illness, that's your accountant, your barber, your nail tech, that's your mechanic. It's the people that's all around you.
Jeez.
I think another thing is recognizing that stigma. Everyone has preconceived bias and stigma, and language matters. For years, the word crazy was extremely triggering for me. Why? Because mental health stigma is real. I'm not telling you what I heard, I'm telling you what I know. I lived it. And the fact that I'm high functioning, the fact that I can still be in society and do and exist, I sit outside the empathy that someone who might be talking to themselves would receive. I don't get it. So in professional spaces, I'm treated sometimes worse. I'm treated harsher because I am expected to prove myself and to prove that I belong. So when we get back to safe spaces, safety is a person, and I'm very public about my diagnosis. I think everyone knows it now, but sometimes people just don't care. And that's just the reality for whatever reason. I know everyone's dealing with something, but especially when we talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that means that there's safe space for a woman who's pregnant. There's safe space for a Muslim who needs to pray. There's safe space for a person who needs to step out and take their insulin. There's safe space for a person who needs to walk around the building and get some sunlight. We're creating safe spaces for people to be able to exist and to thrive in the way that's best for them. So we got to shed stigma. We've got to shed whatever narratives we have that have been created by Hollywood. And we need to get back to empathy. Empathy is kindness, compassion, and respect. Empathy says, I've never broken my leg, but you broke your leg and you say it hurts. So I'm going to trust that you said it hurts, and now I want to do what's necessary to alleviate your pain. That's what empathy is. Sympathy is, wow, your leg hurts. I broke my leg one time, so I understand. Empathy has nothing to do with me. Empathy is all about wanting to resolve your ache, wanting to create spaces where you don't feel like another. And that's what I do. I want to make sure that as people move through the journey, I think another thing that we get wrong with mental health is everything isn't a mental health challenge and everything isn't a mental illness. Sometimes it's life stuff. Sometimes you need to get rid of that job. Sometimes you need to drop those friends. Sometimes you need to end that relationship. Sometimes you need to distance yourself from everyone that you know. Sometimes you need a vacation. Sometimes, sweetie, you need a nap. Or a Snickers, I don't know, one or the other. But everything isn't always a mental illness. And in our society that's heavily focused on medications, sometimes we look for what's the quick fix.
Yes.
Or what's the pill I can take? What's the drink I can drink? Make me feel better in 3 steps. No, sometimes you got to do the work. Here's the thing. When it comes to spirituality, I can't tell my story without including spirituality in my faith. I can't, The reason why I'm sitting here is because that I know that there's a God, there's a higher power that has a purpose for me. Because at times when I didn't have a why to get out of bed, at times when I didn't have a why to continue living and going, it was my connection to my God that pulled me through. Last year, March and April, I was septic. My organs were failing. I was in the ICU. What pulled me through that experience is remembering my purpose, is remembering that I still had people to let them know that recovery is possible. I still had people to let them know that I don't care what you're going through. I don't care how bad your anxiety is today. There is hope. Look at me. That's why I am here. I can't tell my story without including my faith. And so I tell people, when my medication wasn't working, when I couldn't sleep, I know that it was my God that gave me rest. I know that. But spirituality is such an intimate thing that sometimes I I don't like talking about it, because I think sometimes people think that it's cookie cutter, that when whatever Natasha says to do, that's what I'm going to do. No, you got to develop that relationship for yourself. Because when I'm in the hospital, I'm on oxygen. I can't turn to the right or left without being fatigued. I've got a port in my arm, two IVs in each arm, and my organs are failing. There was no gem. There was no Facebook post. There was no person that could heal me and could bring me out of that. There was no one to do that. That was something, that was a work from me and my God. And the times that we need to do the work and build the resilience is not when the test happens.
That's
It's
it.
before the test arrives.
That's it. You're absolutely, I love it. I, wow, I love it. And you know, that's one of the things. People think they look at your outer appearance, right? And they just think that you got it all together because you're smiling. You dress it up. We put the matte makeup, we put the whatever, the eyelashes, the weave, whatever it is. But they think we don't go through anything. Not so.
Not so.
Not
Erica, this past Saturday, I spoke about it last night on Facebook. This past Saturday, I had a for real tantrum with God, because I pause and I cannot imagine. I couldn't process and wrap my head around how I've had such awful experiences with humans over the last year. I could not understand how I'm encountering just bad behavior and lack of integrity from people who call themselves. I just couldn't understand it. I had a full-blown tantrum with God. And I'll tell you what was the divine download. The divine download was, Natasha, are you upset with them or are you upset with yourself? Because I think you're angry with yourself because you saw their behavior and you thought you'd be exempt. You don't need to sharpen your discernment. Do not ask me for any more discernment. You've always been discerning. Now it's time for you to act quickly on what you see and what I show you. When I say everything isn't always a mental illness or a mental health challenge, sometimes we just need to set boundaries. Sometimes we need to call a thing. We need to see a person for who they are and stop romanticizing it. And to your point about pastors and faith leaders, sometimes we expect too much from them, and they're human too. And we're not doing our own work.
That's it.
Before we even get to mental illness, are we taking care of our mental health? Each year, Americans throw away millions of dollars worth of PTO. We're not taking our PTO. We're not taking our rest. We're not taking our vacation. We save it up, and for that day, one day I'm going to take it. And that day never comes. And now it's December 20th, and you've got 11 days to use 42 days. It's not going to happen. We're not taking the time. And part of that is the hustle culture that's perpetuated in our society. And this is where we have to be our own self-advocates.
Not just the hustle, but trying to get it to be like someone else. Get the things that we know we cannot afford to try. Like, you're probably trying to impress people that don't even see it.
Yeah.
Even
And that's why I say, again, another TikTok I did today, success has to be self-defined. Because what is success for you? What success for one person might be a 6-bedroom house, and that's because their dream is to be able to adopt 5 children or to foster children. That's their definition of success. But here you are, a single woman. Why do you need a 6-bedroom house? For what? You have no plan, you just want it because that's what someone else said. We've got to, we've got to define for ourselves, what is success? Is success getting that 3rd, 4th, 5th degree? Why? What's the point? Now, if you want to get it just because that's something that you've always aspired to do, fine. If you think that it's going to aid your career advancement, that's one thing. But if you're getting it just for the sake of getting it because society has told you that a master's or a PhD or a double PhD is what is necessary, you're creating your own stress. You're creating your own mental health challenge because you're aiming for something that is disconnected and incongruent with what you really want. I've got my bachelor's, I've got other certificates and credentials. I was going to go back to school for a mental health counselor certification. But when I looked at the criteria, I'm like, nope, I'll let somebody else do that. I am a mental health coach. I've got my lived experience. That's what I'm going to do. If I go back to school, it'll be for law school. But I defined my own success. So I tell people, shed what your guidance counselor said, discard whatever it is that your parents, your grandparents told you. What is success for you? Because your ability to sleep at night and to live in peace is going to be dependent on you carving out your own path and defining what success is for you.
Absolutely. Guys, we're here live today with your girl, Erica Wilson, at It Had to Happen for season 4, episode 23. We have the beautiful Natasha Pierre before you all. So, Natasha, tell us about this book that you wrote. Because what I do is for every guest that we have on here today, I was going to do it at the end of the show, and I'm still going to do it. I'm not going to tell. But tell us about this book. I'm going to bless some people on today.
So my first book, I know my background is blurred, but the first book is called Provoking Thoughts, Volume 1, 101 Inspirational Quotes for Daily Living. And all of those quotes are divine downloads. These are things that God told me over the course of my life. And I probably have about 1,000 of them, but I took 101 and I put them in the book. And doing that book, I can't talk about it without saying that it was a stretch exercise for me. I have a friend who challenged me I keep saying I wanted to write a book and I never did it. So he challenged me to write this book and to get it together, get the cover done, and do it in 1 month. So in October, 2017, I think I compiled everything. And in February 2018, I published. And that's the first one, Volume 1, because I've got more quotes that I want to release. What I'm working on right now is one that is on grief and on resilience. Between November 6, 2019 and July 2021, I lost 11 people.
Jesus.
And so with my mental health background, that should have broken me. It really should have. But I kept going and I kept doing and I kept being. And quite honestly, right now is the first time since that time that I'm actually taking to process all of that grief. Why? One, because I was working and people needed me and I had to keep going. Also because I bought into that strong Black woman trope and that I could not show any weakness or any vulnerability, because when I show weakness, when people who look like me show weakness and vulnerability, we are replaced. So I kept going and pushing and doing. Throughout all those deaths, I kept making money, kept doing everything that I needed to do, kept showing up. And right now is when I'm actually pausing to process the weight of grief. Here we are as a nation, nearing almost 1 million people that have died from COVID. And as a nation, we're not talking about grief. We are a nation in mourning, and we're not talking about it. Why? Why? We have people dying every day for various reasons. We just had another mass shooting today, but we're not talking about grief. Why? This is what, in my opinion, churches need to be talking about. In my opinion, every church, every faith community in this nation needs to have a grief support group,
Absolutely.
because that's just COVID. We're not talking about accidents, high blood pressure, cancer. We're not even touching those conditions, but we're not talking about grief. We are walking wounded, and I'm among them. So I'm paused, and TikToks are a way for me to be creative and to process.
Well, I'm telling you, Queen, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Like I told you, after I go into my morning worship, I do go on TikTok, and I communicate with the followers because they come on our page and they show us love. So it's only right to show them love as well. But also go over to your page, Natasha, and my God, some of that content no, not some. I have not missed a beat with. No bad TikToks have I seen so far. No.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to deliver something for us before the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, if you're not following her, please tell the audience how one can get in touch with you and follow you on your social media platforms.
So on Instagram, on TikTok, I am Natasha Pierre Official. Same thing for LinkedIn. On Facebook, it's simply Natasha A. Pierre, either one of those. My DMs are always open for mental health and substance use related topics. For that only, nothing else. I gotta say that because sometimes I get some other stuff. But I'm always happy to connect. This is real life. What you see is what you get with me. I am a mental health advocate at 3 a.m. in 7-Eleven, in the grocery store, because I have experienced. I know what anxiety and panic looks like. I know what mood disorders, how that looks. I actually can see it in other people. And I know that's one just because I can recognize the symptoms, but I'm intuitive. This is who I am. So wherever I am, I'm always ready to be an advocate. I'm always ready to serve. And I care about everyone's mental health. So I work with firefighters, sheriff's office. I work with elected officials. I work with anyone because this is a real issue. This is a real issue. And I'm happy to see, even in the Tampa Bay area, more faith leaders creating space for mental health counselors to work alongside them and to really support people as they go through. Because many people haven't recalibrated from March 2020 at the start of the pandemic. I tell people all the time, if you didn't lose your job, you're blessed. Wow. There are many people who lost their jobs or who, and from losing their job, lost their home, lost cars. And so there's a grief that's attached even to losing material things. And that's a real place. And people need to be supported. And instead of the judgment, instead of the you should have been here, you should have, people had savings, but they blew through it because it took that long for them to find another job. And that's where we go back to the empathy, to the compassion, the kindness, and the respect, meeting people where they are and asking, how can I help?
And that's awesome that you say that you pretty much open yourself up to serve, basically just to serve ones who are hurting, because you said that you can identify people that that's hurting. And I also have that gift as well. Like I was raped at the age of 10. So I can almost tell, I can just look at someone and their behavior and know that that same thing or something similar. They've been molested, raped, or whatever it may be. I can pick up on that in an instant, male or female, you know. And that's just a gift that God has blessed us with. However, that happened to us, that happened to us for us to share with others. So that's I can't say enough, and I said it earlier. God was birthing you for your purpose, and you're doing it so well right now. Even though we know, well, I know that some nights I literally drown my pillow because you just have those moments, and you just they say you're not supposed to question God, but I feel like God is my dad. Like I can go to him and I can talk to him, you know, and I could just be real with him because guess what? He know already before you even open your mouth. So who are you kidding, right?
Yeah.
So you can have these type of conversations with God, knowing that I'm going to get the best advice, you know, and know that it's not going anywhere. And the number one thing, no judgment.
No judgment.
People are afraid to talk with others because of judgment. We're too
100%. 100%. I am, you know, it was a risk that I took with being public about my mental health. It's absolute risk because stigma is real. People get pushed out. Listen, I was demoted and fired from a job because I only shared anxiety. I didn't even share the bipolar part, you know. So that really happens. I have had people gaslight me, and gaslighting is the act of trying to get someone to question their memory and to question their mental state. So I've had people try to gaslight me because they knew that I already had a diagnosis, and that's just straight wicked. I've had that several times since I've shared my story publicly.
Jeez.
And so when I cry, you know, I quote Nicki Minaj has a song with Tasha Combs.
Yes. Yes.
So even when I cried, I knew I'd be fine. Prepare for a miracle blessing in these times. I knew that. I knew that while I was working and doing and being and giving and serving, people were trying to pull me down. I knew that. I saw that. It still happens. That's real life. And I think that people need to understand that two things can exist simultaneously. I can be here, a mental health advocate. I can be with you, you know, communicating and facilitating and training and speaking and all of these wonderful things. And I'm still experiencing anxiety.
Absolutely.
I can be strong in one moment, and on Saturday, that tears on the pillow. Oh my God, I had a proper tantrum with God. I was bawling because I was so exhausted by how wicked people can be. And understand this. What hurts me is that I know I'm strong. I know I'm an advocate. I know I have resources. I know I have connections. And if people can be wicked to me, what are they doing to people who are less strong, less capable, unable to use their voice? That's the part that hurts me. That's why I do what I do, because I know how it feels to feel hopeless.
Yes.
I don't ever want anyone to feel as hopeless as I have felt in my life. I don't want anyone to ever feel as beaten, as discarded, as neglected as I have felt in my life. And so that's why I do what I do, because here's the thing. Especially when people want to talk about suicide, you got to understand what got a person to that place. When a person has tried everything, has turned to everyone, and they feel like I have done everything, there are no more solutions, that's when hopelessness comes in. And that's when, in my opinion, there is a mind shift. And unless there is an intentional disruption of the thoughts and the patterns and the behaviors, That person is going to die by suicide because of the hopelessness. And I think that it's time that as humans, we all recognize that sometimes we can be complicit in a person's declining emotional health. Ask me how I know. Because I've had people see my declining emotional and psychological well being, my mental health, and do even more to exacerbate it, to harm me. That's wicked. That's wicked. And just because I know it from a spiritual place, just because I can see the wickedness, just because I can see that people are insecure, intimidated, or whatever, doesn't mean that as a woman, I don't still cry. I don't still hurt, that I don't still feel. Just because I know that everything is going to work out for my good, Romans 8:28, just because that I know that was created for a purpose, just because I know those things doesn't mean that I still don't feel pain. I do. And I think that it is important that as we help people develop resilience, because I really believe that's what is needed. I know that I would not be here speaking to you if I have not built my mental strength over the last 20 years to be able to survive in a hospital with sepsis in a COVID wing. I know that I wouldn't be here speaking to you. What we need is to help people build resilience, that there's got to be safe spaces for people to share. You know, I'm working with some, mental health providers and community advocates here to create support groups for people to be able to share their experience. I need a safe place to say, I am a professional woman. I'm a professional Black woman. I'm a professional Black woman that is on TV and I do interviews and I'm out in the community. And I only got 3 hours of sleep last night.
Wow.
And I'm dealing with anxiety. And I'm afraid of X. And this is what happened to me. And we need those safe spaces because that's the only way we're going to get through. It's Ubuntu. Ubuntu is I am because we are because I am. It means that we are inextricably linked, that nothing can happen to Erica without it affecting Natasha. Right. Nothing can happen to Natasha without it affecting Erica. That's what community is. And when we understand that, we stop pointing fingers and saying it's you, that's your issue, that's your problem. But I said, what? You're dealing with anxiety? How can I support you?
Yes. Now, what happens? Oh, Natasha, see, this is so good. Definitely, I mean, we have to do a part 2 because I didn't get into some of the other things that I wanted to get into. We're right at 6:52, and I definitely want you to bless the people with one of your broadcasts, your TikTok, okay? However, but you said something, though. What happens when you want to go talk to someone, right? That you feel is very, very close to you, but they're always looking at you like you're the problem.
Oh yeah, that's a real thing. Yes. But that's now an individual issue because everyone isn't equipped to hear my story. Everyone isn't equipped to shoulder my pain. The people that I confide in are people who have experienced what I've experienced, people who have broad shoulders. Everyone can't look at me, hear my story, and when I'm over it and I'm better, treat me like the professional that I am. Right. So the people that I confide in are vetted. Everyone isn't vetted. Some people are going to hold on to your moment of weakness and they'll use it against you. And that's why it's the individual's job to find and identify the safe people, the people qualified in their circle that can be in their circle of trust. And until you find that, connect with a therapist. The challenge is, it's sometimes hard to find a therapist. Finding a therapist can be like, dating on a dating app. You got to go through a couple of them to find the right fit. Yeah. That's just the reality.
And I also wanted to talk about, the ones who can't afford the care that one may need. I also wanted to see the services that you offer, but we're right at 6:54. Man, do time flies. It waits on no one. Okay.
I think Everyone should start with their EAP. If they're employed, if they're not employed, look for all of the community resources, especially smaller nonprofits that may offer services. I am a mental health coach. I am not a counselor. So if you reach out to me and I deem that what you need is a coach, we can work together. But if I deem that you need a counselor, that's exactly what I'm going to connect you with. And after you've done that work, then you can come back and see me if you will. But I'm very clear on the difference between a counselor that'll do a deep dive into your past and work with diagnoses. A coach gives strategy. So I'm giving you strategy to help get you to your next level.
Absolutely. Guys, you heard it here at It Had to Happen with the girl, Erica Wilson. I have the beautiful Natasha Pierre with us today, living with illness. Now we're going to have Natasha deliver, what do you call it? Deliver the...
I call it just my breaking news. And it started like, it started as a joke and then people kept liking it. So I'll do the one that I did today.
Okay.
Let me remember it because I do them in a moment. Okay. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
And you'll be my in studio. All right. I'm on the spot here. Okay. Thank you, Erica. Breaking news coming out of the office today. Authorities have confirmed that Fat Joe's statement, yesterday's price is not today's price, can also be applied to areas of your personal life. Now, we spoke with experts and they have confirmed that your values, interests, and goals from yesterday do not have to be identical to the values, goals, and interests that you have today. Back to you in the studio.
Hey, listen, if you're not following her on TikTok, I don't know what to tell you. TikTok, Instagram, what are your social media handles?
I'm on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm on all of them. Just look for Natasha Pierre, and it's usually that picture that's in blue.
Oh, man, it was such a pleasure sitting here talking with you today about mental illness and mental health. There's a difference, people. I learned on today. However, Natasha will be joining us on tomorrow for our NFL Moms show, NFL Moms families and moms. Listen, this topic is much needed, and I'm wearing my green. Natasha has on her green ribbon. As you all know, what is green, Natasha?
Green is the color of mental health awareness. So I wear the ribbon, I give them out throughout the area. And it just says that, you know what, I'm safe. I get it. I understand. I know. I support. And if ever you need to talk, I'm here.
Absolutely. So, Natasha, what we like to do, we like to shout out our guests. And since you do it so well, we're going to put the screen of the comments going across the screen, and you can go ahead and shout out our guests because we can't do this without them, right?
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Here we go. Can you see it?
So not yet. I'm seeing the scroll for my book, but I don't see the guests just yet. But if you give me their names, I'll be happy to do it.
Okay, we have Andy Gump here. He says, Natasha was great. She's well-spoken and educated on the topic. Thank you. A great topic on mental health awareness.
Oh, there they are. Yes, I see them. Hi, Andy. Thank you so much. Andy Gump. I see Val, Julisi Roll Bryan, Johnny Hearns. Thank you all. I missed all of these comments. 88 blessings. I see. Thank you all so much for being here and being part of the conversation. And I see Sina. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you all for being here. You know, every time that I have an opportunity to speak about mental health, this is one of my favorite things to do. And to see so many people participating is a delight. We got to keep the conversation going. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. And again, like I said, we definitely have to do a part 2, Natasha, because this is something that's very much needed. And what I want to do, I want to go ahead and how many guests did we have to respond in the comment section, Karen? Natasha, I'm going to challenge you as well.
Sammy DeGoat, thank you. Alan Hearns.
That's my son.
Oh, that's your son. Hi, son.
So we have, can you call them out for me again so I can see
So
how many?
let's see. I'm going to start at the top. We've got Alan Hearns. We have Sammy the Goat. Cena Christmas Baby. Weena. Okay. Let's see who else we've got here. Norma Smith. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Andy Gump. 88 Blessings.
That's my
Let's see. That's you. Okay. All right. I see you. Let me make sure I didn't miss anyone. Johnny Hearns, if I didn't say him yet.
That's my kid's grandmother.
Wonderful. Yes. And we've got a couple other Facebook users, and maybe what they'll do is they'll DM you their name.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, Natasha, I'm going to purchase 10 of your books for the guests that communicated with us on today's show.
Okay.
And what I will ask of you, if you could get them shipped for me.
Absolutely. I can do that. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what I'll do, I have a Taylor or myself, I'll contact you after the show, after dinner.
Yes.
We'll get that taken care of. Guys, listen here. This is what you must do. We're putting this on you. You have to help us help you. So if your name was called, I need you, listen up, to send an email to it2happen@gmail.com with your shipping info. So I can get that over to Natasha, and Natasha can make sure that you guys have your books.
Yes.
Maybe Natasha will autograph them for you. I don't know.
I will.
Awesome. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in here with us at It Had to Happen. Mental health versus mental illness. There's a difference, guys. If you missed the early part of the show, please do go back and rewatch the broadcast. There's definitely a lot that was mentioned that Natasha, she poured out her heart, and the things that she dealt with, she was very, very open and transparent about the things that she went through, gone through, and probably will continue to go through as we live this thing we call life. We all had some it's to happen. The it's had to happen to you, Natasha, for you to share with someone else. Until next time, Natasha, let's go ahead and send out some virtual hugs. We like to hug together. Some virtual guys, because we love you here at It Had to Happen. Meet me back here tomorrow at 4:30. I will have the beautiful Natasha with us again, as well as the NFL moms and families speaking on mental health. God bless each and every one of you all. Stay safe. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Erica's Empowering Empire. 88 Blessings Soar Movement. It had to happen in a beauty so rare. We'd love for you to join us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. It Had to Happen with Erica Wilson. Following our social media.